Hey Vaios, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Glad to be here.
So you've built several businesses over your 20 plus year career, and with both, successful exits, successful companies and failures, like what fundamental lessons from that full spectrum of experiences shapes your approach to business growth today?
Good question. A lot of lessons, both coming from all of them coming from both outcomes, the positive ones and the negative ones. Um, Probably the first thing that comes to my mind is that build a business based on something that you have clearly understand the pain point and the need. So don't just build a business for the sake of building a business or just making money, but having a clear understanding of what you want to serve in the market increases the chances of success significantly. So probably that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Be very specific on what you want to serve and what you want to bring to the market, and just do it. Don't just create a business for the sake of building a business, or because it's fancy, or because the lifestyle will be nice or what.
Yeah, fair points. So that kind of takes me to the next question, which is what prompted your decision to build your AI-powered outbound agency, specifically to focus on you target tech businesses, agencies, those kind of niches, right?
That's right. We mainly work with B2B software founders, early stage, I would say, B2B software founders, up to Series A, early Series B. We decided to build upset partners for the following reasons. First of all, because this is what I have done. That's my main specialty, my core skill set, if you want. And this is what I have done during the last almost 20 years now. That's the first thing. The second is that um, I have validated again and again, and I have personally experienced as a former founder, that building and going from building the first customer acquisition engine, or in other words, moving from 3 customers to 30 business customers, it's something that all early stage founders struggle with. So it's a big pain point and a common pain point. And the last reason that prompted me to create Upside Partners is that I believe, and this is something that we have already validated during the last year or something, is that AI is about to disrupt and change everything about B2B sales for both the most savvy B2B SaaS founders, but at the same time for any kind of more traditional service business if you want. That's why we work with both B2B SaaS founders, but also with consulting businesses and agencies. So for these 3 reasons, my speciality, main common problem across all these years for across founders, and the third thing, that AI is about to change everything. This trifecta, if you want, made me to create this business and to serve this growing need.
Yeah, interesting, and obviously AI is a huge talking point in, I mean, pretty much across the board of industries where AI is relevant, which is pretty much everyone. Um, so what do you kind of see? What are you seeing now? What are you predicting? Or, it's a pretty like big statement that AI is going to change everything when it comes to B2B sales. Like, what are the big things, the big changes?
What are the big changes that will come along with AI on B2B sales? Um, First of all, the ability to scale personalization. So, for example, Outbound was not that effective, and a lot of people and a lot of experts claiming that Outbound is dead, is not something that can produce, it's just spamming. With AI, if you use AI properly, you can overcome this challenge. You can overcome this obstacle. So the personalization and the relevance, which are key to an outbound motion, can be significantly improved through AI. That's probably the most important element. So with AI, outbound can become personal and can become effective, which was not the case until 2 years ago. That's one thing. The second thing about AI is that apart from scaling personalization, the second thing is that AI can give the ability, from the productivity point of view, can give the ability to smaller teams compete with more established companies. So AI will work probably on the benefit of smaller teams with less resources. So teams that did not have access to capital or access to knowledge or access to resources will have a significant advantage over the other companies, the more established companies in the market. So these are the two more important elements, more important changes that I can see through AI. First, that outbound can become probably the most effective sales channel in the marketplace. And second, the smaller teams, the teams that lack resources or knowledge or specialized knowledge, will benefit from AI. That's the
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and you kind of mentioned, the people say, and this, it's usually viral, sort of controversial posts and stuff that you'll see on LinkedIn and X and that sort of thing, where people say outbound is dead, cold email is dead. It always stirs up that conversation. And yeah, attaching AI to that, and you mentioned that enables smaller companies to compete with bigger companies. It also enables, people to come into the market, like with the latest tools that are available. It enables other, cold email, outbound setups, early startups to come into the market and compete. So it creates a very saturated marketplace, which you've obviously always got to remain at the forefront, at the cutting edge of what's working now and that sort of thing. How do you sort of handle that situation for yourself, with your competition?
In what sense?
In the sense that it's a very competitive market, and I'm sure you're out talking when you're acquiring your own customers. You're talking to people that will have been prospected, sold to by many other cold email outbound agencies and that sort of thing. Like, how do you differentiate? How do you handle that level of competition, that level of saturation?
Great question. Look, the world and the business world, and especially the LinkedIn planet, if you want, is full of lead generation agencies. And that's probably the biggest misperception that exists in the marketplace after the AI wave. Is that okay? Now we have AI, so we can personalize at scale, we can find leads, we can do the outreach and bring results. And still, people who use AI technically, who use AI effectively, do not produce results. Why is that? For two reasons. First of all, it's not about only scaling personalization, which is a technical element, important, but that's a technical element. But more importantly, you have to understand the business and your end customer. So it's not about creating a list of leads, uploading to some tool, doing the enrichment, and just starting the outreach, and you will bring results. You need to be aware of the ICP. You need to define a new ICP. You need to probably try to find hidden ICPs, the right personas, and come up with some very specific outreach strategy and relevant outreach strategy that elements like scale of personalization can be very, very effective. So there are a lot of lead generation agencies out there, but they focus on the technical implementation, how they can incorporate AI on the outreach without considering the fundamentals, which is, let's see what is this business about. Let's see who is the end customer. Let's see how this customer buys. What are the decision criteria for this ICP? And let's build a strategy across the board in terms of call to action, in terms of messaging, in terms of offering, in terms of value proposition that could be relevant to this persona. So And you very, very accurately said in the beginning that when we pitch and when we discuss with potential partners and with potential customers, we usually get this response. Vaios, we have been approached from too many other lead generation or AI powered generation lead generation agencies. What's different here? The difference, and what we have seen, of course, I'm biased, but what we have seen that works way, way better is that you need to have the experience and you need to have the time and the resources to sit down with the founders, with the teams, understand the landscape, understand the business, define or redefine the ICP and the value proposition, and then start doing the outreach. So it's not that the tools and the technical implementation, but it's the significant job that needs to be done upfront in order to understand the business, the landscape, the competitors, the end customer, and then incorporate all this knowledge into the outreach strategy. 90% of the lead generation of this kind of go-to-market agencies out there, they focus only on the last part, on how they can implement the technical outreach and how they can incorporate all the fancy AI features into the outreach strategy, and they forget the fundamental, which is okay, who is the end customer? What is the pain point? What is the offering? How we are different? And when they answer all these questions with clarity, then to incorporate these answers to their outreach strategy. This is what most of the companies do not do it, either because they do not have the knowledge or do not have the resources, the expertise, or they just believe that simply creating lists and uploading to some email or LinkedIn automation tool will work, which we have validated that doesn't work. You need to have both elements, understanding the business, the strategic part, and the implementation part. Only the implementation part usually does not work.
Yeah, yeah, and it is. It's the foundations, the fundamentals that never change. You know, it's the go-to-market strategy, and also that takes time. So how do you counteract the time that it takes to do that, to understand, you know, each business that you take on as a new client, with scaling up numbers of clients, you know, because when you scale, does the service delivery, is that diluted? Like, how do you handle that situation?
First of all, you have to educate, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we have in our sales process is to educate or filter from your prospect the founders or the teams that have understood the importance of a comprehensive go-to-market approach. So they need to understand that this is not something that, okay, guys, this is what we sell, that's the software, just create some list, find some relevant leads, and just sending some emails, and somehow magically we will start creating meetings with qualified prospects. This is not the case. So we spend time upfront, resource and time to discuss, first of all, to train and educate our customers that this is something that requires a holistic approach. Let's see, we have a couple of tools that help us communicate this comprehensive approach that we have. Like we run 2 or 3 diagnostic sessions with a couple of specialized tools that we have in order to understand the business, the landscape, and using this process that usually takes 1 or 2 weeks with our customers before starting implementing the outreach strategy. Using this diagnostic process upfront communicates directly but also indirectly to the founders that here we need to see the whole thing 360 from the very beginning. So it's not something, okay, we'll start creating campaigns, this is the messages, these are the lists, and then let's push start, and the results will come. So spending down some time upfront, using tools like diagnostic sessions, train the founders and actually educate the founders and the customers, our customers, that this is something that requires a holistic approach. And down the line, through this process, they understand, okay, that these things takes time. We cannot expect something that will bring results from day one. We need to be committed at least 6 months to implement this properly. And what we have seen, as I said, diagnostic sessions for the first 2 weeks and filtering, qualifying our prospects in terms of how serious they are for the go to market. These are the two elements that enable us to do our job properly without rushing, without negotiating for the fundamentals. Yeah, and as I
Yeah.
said, probably this is the biggest challenge that we face in our job, at least at the moment, is that to educate the customers, to educate in most of the times the early stage founders, that this is something that we need to rethink as a holistic approach on the go to market from A to Z. We need both of us to invest time, rethink, and based on the outcome of this process, that usually, as I said, takes 2 weeks, then we can start doing the implementation.
Mm. Yeah, so it's an initial 2 weeks of, as you said, diagnostics. That's, that's your kind of strategies for uncovering market research, competitor research, like their own customer base, maybe existing customer base research, all that sort of stuff, to then put a
Exactly.
strategy together. Yeah, okay. And yeah, and educating the founders, the owners on this is the process, this is crucial. It's not just about implementation and getting things out the door, out of the gate. This is the stuff that makes campaigns work.
I try to communicate from the very, very, very beginning that this process to work requires two things. First of all, time commitment of at least 6 months, because it takes time to do it properly. And the second thing is that, guys, we need to spend at least 2 weeks for these 2 or 3 diagnostic sessions. And throughout this process, it becomes clear to them that they need to rethink across the board, from the value proposition, from the ICP, from the pricing structure, everything. And then they realize,
Mm.
okay, this is not a 1 month or a 2 month game. This is something that we need to build it again, or we need to rethink it again. Probably in some cases, we have seen cases that only small changes were required, but in most of the cases, the changes that are required and become clear to the founders are across the board, from the value proposition, from the ICP, from the pricing, from
Mm. Yeah. And 6 months. So you mentioned like two weeks of diagnostics to, put that initial go-to-market strategy out there. And then between 2 weeks and 6 months, that's a long time. What's the process there? Is that just testing? Like, is that?
Look, first of all, we have what we do internally and what we do with our customers. Internally, we follow a specific framework that we have built internally, which combines the automation, an automation layer, and on top of the automation layer, a manual layer. The automation layer suggests that we use most of the emerging AI tools on building highly personalized sequences over LinkedIn and over email. Again, based on what was the outcome of the diagnostic sessions. So based on these findings, we try to incorporate these findings on the campaigns that we run across the channels, LinkedIn and email, using all the AI tools, automation tools. And on top of this, we have a team of BDRs doing the following. They constantly monitor the engagement of the recipients of these outreach campaigns. They monitor in terms of who opened the emails, who downloaded this report, who replied negatively, who replied positively, who is considering. So, and then based on these responses, we categorize the prospects in 4 different categories. And based on these categories, we have the BDRs doing super hyper personalized outreach either over the phone or over email or over LinkedIn. So we see the first engagement, we prioritize the engagement based on 4 different segments, and then we start doing manual outreach to these prospects, either over a phone, which in some cases works fantastic, or over email or over LinkedIn. Again, being highly relevant and highly personalized, which can and be highly authentic, which is something that AI cannot bring into the place at the moment. So what we have seen is that this combination of AI and manual outreach works really well.
Mm.
Which again, by
Yeah,
the way,
interesting.
which again is not the case with the most of the go-to-market and lead generation agents out there. They rely purely on optimizing AI instead of trying to combine AI with some human resources, which to
Mm.
my experience and to my knowledge and what we have seen so far during the last 2 years and a half, you need to have experienced manual process on top of the automation in order to bring results.
Mm. Yeah. And so based on everything that you've observed, what's the most counterintuitive insights that you've discovered since running Upset Partners and Outbound?
Most of the professionals out there, either you call them lead generation agencies or our customers themselves, usually they focus on the technical aspect of the outreach campaigns. They focus on how you create the leads, how accurate are the leads, what is the bounce rate, the validation of the emails, the verification that you have for the emails, which are important. But what we have seen is that finally, the messaging, what will you say and how you say over email or over a LinkedIn message is way, way more important. So, for example, you can do an outreach to 100 different prospects without having a very precise list of prospects, but the message is very well created, if you want. The final outcome, even with less accurate list of prospects, the final outcome can be significantly higher compared to a list of full, a perfect list of prospects. But when the message is not very authentic, is not very relevant. So probably that's my core finding, that most of the people believe that the technical aspect of outbound process, how you will create the leads, how you will create incorporate some personalization aspects on the outreach are super important. But we have seen that in some cases, even a manual and authentic message can become way, way more significant and can become way, way, way more productive than a message that has been created with all the AI features that are available now. So that's one of the key findings that I have seen so far.
Mm. Do you come across companies that in the early stages of your sales process that like you can't help, that aren't, it's not going to be viable, it's not going to be a viable situation? Do you kind of gauge whether you've got companies that, yeah, we could definitely help them? Or is it always a case of taking them on, 6 months of testing to make it work? Or is there a case where it just never works? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
For us, there are two. If you want to use some relevant terms, there are two qualification questions in order to onboard a new customer. If they understand the importance of at least 6 month commitment, and if they are serious and if they are willing to reconsider everything across the board regarding the go-to-market strategy. If they are not if they do not comply with these two rules, we cannot do business with them, because we know empirically that if they expect results within 2 weeks or within 3 weeks, we know that this will backfire. and this will destroy the relationship. So if we see that they have these two fundamentals to us, two fundamentals values from the very beginning, that this is not something for the next 2 weeks, it requires at least 6 months. And if they are willing to reconsider, at least reconsider, not change necessarily, but reconsider their go-to-market strategy across the board, this is how we qualify our customers. And there is some indirect, and based on our experience, based on how we feel that we communicate with our prospects, if we see that some prospects are not that serious, and you can see this from their communication, from how they react on what we are asking them, or whatever, or how much time they invest on this, or if they invest, or if they finally decide to have someone dedicated on supporting us because we try to support them. These are the soft elements. These are not the hard qualification criteria for us, but these are soft qualification, if you want, that we understand that this is probably a serious prospect, a customer that we can do business with and we can practically help him, or we cannot. Because if someone expects, for example, without investing some significant amount of time, at least in the very beginning, if he expects to generate 10 customers over a period of a month, this is not the case. So if we see that this kind of immaturity, if you want, then usually we take the decision that, okay, probably it's better to pause what we have already started exploring, and we can reconsider this in the future. It hasn't happened many times, but it has happened. I can usually recall 2 times that we actually dropped a client because their behavior was not that professional, and we have understood and we have seen in the past that if they are not committed, and if they haven't seen what we do in a very professional manner, this will backfire. And in our case, the risk will be significantly higher. Why is that? Because we do a significant investment upfront to understand the business, the landscape, everything. And if we see that after 1 month or after 3 weeks that we start having some issues with the customer, the fact that we decided to start, doing business with this customer creates a significant opportunity cost for us, and that's why we want to filter the customers that we work with.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and yeah, understanding that they are serious, they are willing to adapt to ultimately what you're uncovering is what the market wants through your go-to-market strategy, and then trying to make their service or product fit to exactly what their market is telling you that they want. It's that kind of approach and reverse engineering it, right?
Exactly, reverse engineer how the market will react, and as I said, to communicate effectively to the prospect that this is a long-term commitment and they need to see the whole thing holistically. But when you see a customer, a founder, or a commercial person within the team that we work with, that they get anxious after 2 or 3 weeks, which is not realistic, then you understand that, okay, probably we have made the decision to work with this company, but that's a red flag or an orange flag, if you want, which indicates that probably after 1 or after 2 months, probably we'll have a problem with this customer. And for us, because what we do, of course, we use AI, but at the end of the day, it's a people business. The opportunity cost for us is significant because we decided to start working with them instead of start working with some other company. So that's why we need to filter who is serious about their go-to-market strategy and start doing business with them.
Mm. And how do you deal with, so I'm assuming when you have the sales process and you're closing clients, their mindset is, or you might come across this where their mindset could be, I'm paying you, so I'm taking on all the risk here because I'm paying you to do a service. And if it doesn't work, I've just, forked out a load of money for something that doesn't work. Whereas you're getting paid to do a job. And do you have risk involved? Like, how do you kind of deal with that sort of situation when you're bringing clients on?
Very, very spot on. Very, very good question. First of all, we discuss with our prospects two or three different pricing scenarios. We have pricing scenario that is focused on performance, and we have scenarios that are focused on retainer, and the performance element is significantly smaller. So, if, for example, because we have received this kind of feedback of comment from our prospects, guys, what's your risk here? What's your skin on the game here? Okay, let's first of all we undertake a risk because we start working with you and we don't work with some other companies. So as I said, we're a people business, so we make this we have this kind of opportunity risk, opportunity cost in the very beginning. The other thing, as I said, we have two or three different. We usually present two or three different pricing scenarios with our prospects, performance focused or retainer focused, and they are free to decide. So yeah, this is how we overcome. We do not, and we have received a comment, guys. Let's make it only performance focused, only performance based. That's a red flag for us because it seems that this is something that our prospect doesn't have the resources or doesn't want to invest the resource and time because they say, okay, this is for free. They will do the job. If they don't do the job, I have nothing to lose. But if they pay a retainer, they will be forced to be serious and sit down with us and do the job professionally. So if someone is not willing to invest a reasonable retainer, for us, it's a red flag because probably he's not serious about the thing that we want to do with him. It's not about our let's say needs to create some cash flow, but it's about the needs to do our job properly. And if someone does not have the means or is not willing to invest a reasonable retainer, for us, it's a red flag. He's not that serious.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
in that way, if he pays this retainer, he will respect the time, he will respect his time, he will invest the time that we need, and finally, we will make the service productive, and he will have the
Hmm.
results. That's the idea.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and you mentioned kind of prospects talking about wanting to do something performance only. Um, and that kind of, I suppose that comes back to the competition that you might have when they are approached by other, lead generation companies that might offer that performance only deal, but they just, people just wanting to get started, focusing on the tactics, implementation, not understanding that the client has to have that commitment, that skin in the game. Yeah, it's like Alex Hormozy's offer book kind of created this whole, these crazy offers in the market as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
paradigm, like Alex. Look, as I
Yeah.
said, most of our customers had bad experience in the past.
Hmm.
This is the most common objection that we receive on our sales process. Guys, okay, at the end of the day, okay, you're doing something more sophisticated, more holistic, or whatever, but we have been approached and we had some partners in the past, and this thing didn't work. Okay, and most of our happy customers, as I said, they were unhappy from a previous lead generation relationship. And we're trying to make it clear that, guys, this thing takes time. This thing requires significant time from your side, especially in the very beginning, and it requires your willingness to rethink your go-to-market across the board. So
Hmm.
that's the point.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges right now that you're facing with outbound campaigns on more of the tactical level?
On the tactic level, yeah, it's very clear. It's very obvious because I had a relevant discussion before our call earlier today. There are so many enrichment tools out there. So many tools that provide list or enrich list with extra data. The quality is not there. The quality is not there. I mean, I wouldn't like now to name all the big, and well-known tools out there that are used from sales teams, but the quality on the enrichment tools and the prospecting tools is not there. So if you purely rely on the tools without having people, again, it has to do with the resources and experience. If you don't assign human resources on top of the tools, the outcome will not be positive. And especially on the validation of the leads, on the quality of the leads, on the relevance of the leads, if you don't assign people on filtering and optimizing the list of prospects, the quality is not there. And I'm referring to tools that cost $99 per month, but also I'm referring to tools that cost $5,000 per month.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're talking about just, using those services, getting those lead lists, and then not the emails might not be validated, they might not be relevant, the quality of the job roles and the people on the list might not be what you're actually trying to target. So you're
Exactly.
just sending out. So you send. So then it's.
And let me give you an insight on this, James. Most of the companies that require some support on the go-to-market are companies that either they haven't clearly found their product market fit, or they're in a very specific niche that's difficult to identify the ICP, the core persona, all these things. And the tools that are available in the marketplace at the moment cannot work very, very well for this very specific niche or for pre-product market fit companies. And this is where you need to have experienced human resources to work on top of all these tools and make the data relevant and make the data accurate and relevant.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Yes, and that's the biggest. So that's the biggest challenge that you're facing now with when it comes to outbound or just outbound as a whole. That's the biggest, sort of
Quality of the
challenge.
leads, yeah, the quality of the leads that requires significant amount of time and significant amount of resources in order to bring them to a level that can bring results.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And is that so? On the flip side of that, is that the strongest tactic to implement? Getting that right, getting the lead list, the quality, getting all that right.
Yeah, I think that the most effective tactic is, again, based on what we have seen, is that you need to have resources, to assign resources and time across the board to check the list, to check the messages, to check everything. It requires resources. It's not something that, okay, I will use, I don't know, Apollo, some outreach tool, I will pay $200 and I will have customers. No, doesn't work. You need to have specialized resources, human resources across the board to make it happen. Copywriters, of course, you can use a lot of AI tools, copy.ai or ChatGPT or whatever to create and optimize your messaging. But again, you need to have script writers to write authentic and brand relevant messages. You need to have sales ops specialists to max out all these AI tools. You need to have campaign managers, again, human resources to constantly check and optimize the performance of the campaigns. You need to have BDRs to do authentic and manual outreach. Usually, most of the lead generation services do not have this experience and do not have these resources. That's why they say, okay, I will do the outreach for $300 per month, zero results, they burn the brand, they destroy the brand, they destroy the market. And as I said in the very beginning, this is probably the most common obstacle and objection that we receive in our sales process. AI tools created this misconception, this misperception that, okay, I can do this easily with minimal amount of investment in terms of resources, in terms of knowledge, and I can bring results. And I can sell this for $300. It doesn't work. It harms the brand that you're trying to promote. Usually the reaction is that when things are not productive, usually the reaction is that, okay, let's increase the number of recipients. In other words, let's spam everyone. Again, it doesn't work. And the long-term result is that you have generated two or three opportunities, but on the flip side, you have destroyed your brand for good. And this is what we try to do differently. We follow an account-based approach, very qualitative across the board, from the strategy up to the implementation, combining, of course, all the AI tools, but also with experienced go-to-market professionals. And this combination brings results. This is what we have seen. This is how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace.
Mm. Yeah, so I suppose because so you mentioned like sort of an account-based approach rather than it just being volume. You've got to get the responses, the results right first before you can then even look at scaling. It's not just about pouring more petrol on the fire. That's not, yeah. Which then I suppose, because do you have problems with like deliverability? Like, is that an issue? Like when you're talking about scaling outbound campaigns, do you always have to sort of remain at the forefront of what will actually hit inboxes and that sort of thing?
100%. These are part of the technical things that we always, implement in the very beginning. The warm ups, the deliverability, the bounce rates, everything. It's part of the process that we follow. Yeah, but as I said, this is not for us the most important thing. It is important, but the focus is not there. The focus is on the strategy and becoming highly qualitative across the board,
Mm.
highly challenging across the board. We challenge the pricing. For example, we have it's something that has become so many times. Many customers believe that, okay, this is the pricing cannot change, or some other element. We need we need to justify the value with some ROI calculator. So we need to build an ROI calculator. Most of the comments said, okay, we cannot define ROI. We cannot build an ROI calculator. We challenge this, we create this, and this becomes of the material that we use in the outreach process and brings results. So that's the idea. Of course, as I said, the technical part is important. We need the deliverability. We need to be high. We need to have a low bounce rate. We need to use either to do the warm up manually or using some external tools for the warm up. All these, let's say, technical elements. But as I said, this is not the most important. The most important is to be highly qualitative, highly relevant across the board.
Mm. Yeah. What? Yeah. So I mean, as someone you've had successes, you've had failures in business. You're also working with many founders that are early stage. What advice would you give to B2B founders who are currently struggling with a venture that isn't hitting growth targets currently?
I will not try to say something different in that case, but I think that this is something very well established. Founders and business owners in general need to be very clear and they have a strong clarity on the problem that they want to solve. So having a clarity about the problem statement is probably the most important thing. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? Be very specific. Be very, to the point, spot on, not vague. Specific. Is it? Are you building a product about, I don't know, an application tracking system? Be very specific on the use case, on the initial use case that you want to serve. You are building an agency. Be very specific on who is your customer and what is the problem that you serve, that you're trying to solve for this customer. So again, the fundamentals: problem statement. work on the problem statement, and then and spend time with the customers, and then everything else is of a secondary importance, especially in the very beginning. Clear understanding of the problem and spending time with the customers. These are the two most important things.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that comes back to something I think I saw on your LinkedIn where you say, 90% of the results come from the preparation beforehand, before the actual results land.
Yeah. That was that's relevant, and that was probably more relevant to the use case of making meetings and having meetings with prospects. As I said before, probably the two most important things is to have clarity on the problem statement, and second, spending time with customers. Spending time with customers, being prepared for the meeting that you have with customers is of crucial importance. So you are a busy founder, you're all over the place, you work on the product, you work on the team, you work on the finance, you work on with the investors, if you have investors on your board or whatever. But spending time with your customers is the most important KPI, and the most important job to do for these meetings for your customers is to be prepared. Be thoughtful about who is your prospect. Okay, now I'm gonna having a conversation with James. I need to know about James. What are the pain points? What he has done? What he has probably tested in the past? Similar services that he has tested. How big is the team? What are the resources that he has? So you need to have done this kind of research, being prepared in order to make the most out of this unique asset that you have, which is the meeting with a relevant prospect. So this is, and I'm glad that you read my LinkedIn post. This is actually where I was referring to the importance of being prepared on the most important thing that you have as an early stage founder, which is the meeting with a qualified prospect. Be prepared, having a productive conversation, and either reshape your ICP or use all the assets that you have in order to convince these qualified prospects to move forward. So either get inside to reshape and become more specific on your ICP, or max out the opportunities to convert this prospect into a paying customer.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
clear?
well,
I
that
don't
was
know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was great, Vaios. I really appreciate your insights here in this conversation. Where can people go to find out more about you?
I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so if somebody goes and type Vaios Gitsas GKITSAS on LinkedIn, they can find my profile. They can reach out to me if they want. They can. I usually post something always on the practical side of things on a daily basis. Relevant things on sales and go-to-market elements, especially for early stage B2B founders and B2B software founders. And of course, they can send me an email if they want directly to Vaios at theupsetpartners.com. And thank you for mentioning this.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, well, again, thanks again for coming on, Vaios. It was great speaking to you.
My pleasure. Likewise, James. My pleasure.
Cheers.